Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? I want to talk about something that I think it's really important. Here I am on the Blu-ray version. This is the Blu-ray version, and I have my contrast move all the way to the 34. Now, on my previous video, a lot of people have been complaining with the fact that they think that I'm trying to pull some tricks when I was doing a comparison between a 4K Blu-ray HDR version and the Blu-ray version because of the exposure of the light. Of course, there's the exposure of the light because the camera lens will depict that exposure if the HDR is not present and it's not dimmed down. The higher contrast will bring more light, therefore be more exposure. And I'm going to show you that right here on this video. Look what happens on this contrast when I move it up. Look what happens. Look how much exposure we're going to get. Just look at that. Look at that exposure. Oh my God, look at that exposure. That's what happens. That's what happens. The reason you have that exposure, it's because of the contrast. The contrast brings the light. So the camera will depict that exposure. I'm not pulling any tricks. If we switch to the HDR, this exposure, it's not going to be that high because the HDR, it's dimming and it's controlling that peak brightness with a more natural white bright levels. Okay? But no, I'm going to have some people come to my channel trying to educate me. The higher the light of the contrast, the more the camera is going to depict that exposure because we're exposing the light. Look at the exposure. That's because of the contrast. Okay? I'm not pulling any tricks. It's just when you're watching a Blu-ray version, the white bright levels, when you move the contrast up, the camera depicts the light. When you move it to the HDR, it doesn't. Let me switch to the HDR and you will see. Here. Why you don't see that exposure in the HDR? Because HDR has controlled white bright levels, controlled deep dark levels, more balanced color gamut. So when people say that I'm trying to pull some tricks, it's a bunch of bullshit. Okay? And here I am. Look. Let's go to the picture mode. Where's the advanced settings? And you will see I have my brightness and my contrast all the way high. Because we're using HDR here. Because I'm on a 4K UHD HDR. Yes, HDR does dim down the picture a little bit, but it's doing it to preserve that much better white bright levels. That's what HDR does. It controls the white bright levels, controls the deep dark digital levels, and it enhances the color gamut, meaning you get much more spectrum of colors. But I'm not pulling any tricks. Let's go to the Blu-ray version again. Let's do this. Oh my God, look at all this exposure. Of course there's going to be exposure, you idiot. I was referring to a clown. I'm not going to mention his name, he's blocked. It came to my channel trying to, quote unquote, educate me. Educate me. Okay, focus your camera. So here, this is the exposure you're seeing because the Blu-ray version doesn't have HDR, so therefore the contrast was left at maximum. So when I was switching between the HDR and the Blu-ray version obviously doesn't have HDR, so the contrast levels that are set to the maximum will have more exposure to the light. Okay? If I move the contrast down, then of course the exposure of the light, it's not going to be that bad. That's why you need to move the contrast down when you are watching a non-HDR format. When you're watching an HDR format, of course, when you're watching an HDR format, that's not going to be noticeable there because the contrast and the white bright levels and the peak brightness is controlled by high dynamic range. Listen, guys, I really don't have time to be educating everybody else here. I've been doing it. Look, I'm 40 years old. I wasn't born an hour ago. I know how this works. I know how the camera lens works. Okay, bottom line is HDR in 4K UHD Blu-ray, it's better than the standard Blu-ray. Okay, end of story. Well, there you go. Hopefully this answers your questions for people who think that I'm trying to snap my fingers and bully everyone, or trying to snap my fingers and fool everyone. I'm not doing this for the money or publicity. I'm doing this because I'm trying to help people. So all you clowns out there, type away with your stupid ass bullshit comments. Type away with all your stupid dislikes. Nobody gives a damn. I'm 25,000 strong. End of story. Right, Thanos. Yes. Snap my fingers and end this video.